Well, I got a girl with a record machine. When it comes to rocking, she's the queen. We love to dance on Saturday night. All alone where I can hold her tight. Lives on the 20th floor uptown. The elevator's broken down, so I walk 1, 2, flight 3, flight 4, 5, 6, 7, flight 8, flight more. Up on the 12th, I'm starting to drag. 15th floor, I'm ready to sag. I get to the top, I'm too tired to rock. When she calls me up on the telephone, says, come on over, hun, I'm all alone. I say, baby, you're mighty sweet, but I'm in bed with the aching feet. This went on for a couple of days, I just couldn't stay away. So I walk home, 2, flight 3, flight 4, 5, 6, 7, flight 8, flight more. Up on the 12th, I'm starting to drag. 15th floor, I'm ready to sag. I get to the top, I'm too tired to rock, let's go. To Chicago for repairs. Till it's fixed, I have to take the stairs. I hope they hurry before it's too late. I love my baby too much to wait. All this climbing is getting me down. I find my corpse draped over the rails. So I walk home, 2, flight 3, flight 4, 5, 6, 7, flight 8, flight more. Up on the 12th, I'm starting to drag. 15th floor, I'm ready to sag. I get to the top, I'm too tired to rock. Let's go. Welcome to this edition of Beatlemania. It's been a long time. Beatlemania Revisited. So you're thinking, I don't remember the Beatles playing that song. You're exactly right. They didn't record that song. But this song plays a very big part in the history of the Beatles. This song is called 20 Flight Rock. It was written by a great young American rock and roller back in the 50s named Eddie Cochran. He co-wrote the song and recorded it, played a lot of the instruments on the actual recording. And it was a big hit at the time in the 50s when, the Beatles were just, teenagers growing up. They weren't even a band yet. And so on a particular day, John's band, the Quarrymen, were playing at a church fair, and John Lennon and Paul McCartney had a mutual friend named Ivan, and Ivan said to Paul McCartney, you need to come and meet my friend John Lennon. His band's playing at this little church fair today, and I think, because you like to play rock and roll, and he's got himself a little skiffle band, I think you might really enjoy what they do. So Paul goes along, and he sees John up on the stage playing with the skiffle band, so at the end, when the break comes on, they sort of go backstage into like a locker room or somewhere in a little building, maybe in the church hall. And Ivan introduces Paul McCartney to John Lennon. So they meet for the first time as like 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. And they're trying to sort of size each other up. And so Paul sits down at the piano, starts playing some cool little things, and John's playing his guitar. And so then at one point, Paul says to John, can I borrow your guitar for a moment? He says, yeah, sure. He goes, well, he takes John's guitar and he strums a chord. He goes, something's wrong here. He says, yeah, I don't really know how to tune a guitar. It's tuned like a banjo because I learned to play banjo. So Paul tunes John's guitar to make it sound like a guitar. And then because Paul is left-handed, he has to turn the guitar upside down and play it upside down. So John's like, well, this guy can tune a guitar, and now he's going to play my guitar upside down because he's left-handed. What's he going to do? Well, what Paul McCartney did is he took that guitar. Well, I got a girl with a record machine. When it comes to rocking, she's the queen. We love to dance on a Saturday night. All alone where I can hold her tight. Lives on the 20th floor uptown. The elevator's broken down, so I walk 1, 2, flight 3, flight 5. So he does this little thing without the lead piece in the middle. And John's like, oh my goodness, he's playing my guitar upside down. He's singing it really well. And he knows all the words. He knows all the lyrics to 20 Flight Rock. So it kind of sticks in John's head. So a few days later, John said to his friend Ivan, I'm thinking about maybe asking your friend Paul McCartney to join my band, the Quorum. Do you think he'd be all right with that? And Ivan said, yeah, I'll ask him for you. So I think Ivan actually mentioned it to Paul, and Paul thought about it for a couple of days and said yes. So that brought Paul and John together. And, the rest really is history. Paul had a friend down the street who was a very good guitar player named George Harrison. So the three of them got together soon after that. But it was that song, 20 Flight Rock, that really got John's attention that Paul played. So the story behind 20 Flight Rock and Eddie Cochran is actually a sad one. Eddie Cochran was a mega talented rocker back in the 50s. And inspired a lot of up-and-coming rock and rollers, along with Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Fats Domino, and Gene Vincent, So in 1960, Gene Vincent, also from America, and Eddie Cochran were traveling in England and in Britain doing a tour, rock and roll tour. Elvis wasn't on the tour because the Colonel wouldn't let Elvis go abroad because Colonel Tom Parker was actually a bit of a fraud in that he knew that if he left the United States, they might not let him back in because he was actually in the United States under very sort of suspicious, means, and they probably wouldn't have allowed him back in. So Elvis never played outside of the United States for that reason. No one really knew why, but Colonel Tom kept manipulating it in a way that Elvis would never leave the States. So the Brits were just, craving for some rock and roll music. So Gene Vincent was the guy that did Bee-bop-a-lula, she's my baby, Bee-bop-a-lula, don't mean maybe, right? So Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran are touring, and then they need to catch a plane from Heathrow Airport back to the United States. So when they're driving back to Heathrow, they get into a terrible car accident. And a few days later, Eddie Cochran died from head injuries. So we lost Eddie Cochran at a young age, but he inspired John and Paul and helped them get together. It's part of the Beatles' history and rock and roll history. Gene Vincent survived the crash and went on to be in a couple of movies, recorded some other things, and I think we lost him back in the 1970s. So that's a story behind 20 Flight Rock. The thing is that the one thing that Paul McCartney and I have in common is that we both know all the words to 20 Flight Rock. And that's where the similarity ends. Thanks for watching. See you next time on Beatlemania Revisited.